Now we're going to a session with two of the hardest to get people in Techsylvania's history for very, very different reasons. So I'll introduce the first one and then let him introduce the speaker and the guest for the fireside chat. So Vlad Ciurca is, well, you can judge the better or the worse half of the founding duo of Techsylvania. He's doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes. So I'm really, really excited that he's going to host this fireside chat. On the other side, our other speaker, Vlad, has been chasing for 11 years since the first edition of Techsylvania, and he has finally capitulated, because you know that Vlad would chase him for another 15 years. So he has finally agreed to come visit us in Cluj, Romania, and be with all of you here. It's a really, really big honor. And please give a warm round of applause for Vlad that he can reveal who is going to host this fireside chat with. Thank you so much, Vlad. Thank you so much for doing all of this. Really looking forward.
Get him to join for 11 years. And Shervin is a serial entrepreneur and investor with a remarkable track record when it comes to venture capital. He co-founded Sherpa Capital, a leading VC firm with over 650 million assets under management. He also was a co-founder and executive chairman of the Virgin Hyperloop, a pioneering transportation company. As a general partner at the Sherpa Fund, Shervin played a key role in raising over 650 million in venture capital and has been a significant investor and board member with companies that you all have heard of, such as Uber, WAG, Machine Zone, Munchery, PillPack, and many more. In addition to his business accomplishments, Shervin is deeply committed to philanthropy. He supported various charitable organizations such as Build.org or Mahalla Fund, and Shervin has been recognized as one of the top venture capital investors worldwide, has been on the Midas list, which recognizes the very best investors in the world. And I'd like to welcome him on stage so he can share his insights and give us some knowledge that I've been waiting for so long to convince him to come down here and do this in person.
It only took 11 years.
11 years. We've been looking over the emails, and I think there were at least 30 or 40 people that I asked to get an intro to you, and of course I reached out like 11 years in a row, but finally happy to have you here.
I'll say one thing on this. Vlad has been incredibly persistent over those years, and I didn't realize how many people he had asked. He's emailed like 30 different friends of mine and colleagues, and this is actually a trait that I specifically look for in entrepreneurs is this kind of persistence, never giving up. One of my rules and mantras that I try to teach my kids and my different founders is the answer is always no until you ask. You just have to ask 11 times and then, then the answer is yes. But I'm very, very excited to be here, and I'm very impressed with what's going on in Romania and with the intelligence that's here.
Thank you. So I'd love to start off and ask you about how your journey in the US began. What were some pivotal moments or decisions that shaped your early career?
Well, I think what makes America really an incredible place for entrepreneurship is its diversity. So my parents escaped the war and the revolution in Iran, and we came to America. They were educated, very educated, but they couldn't get jobs. So we started in America with $35. My mom was a teacher back in Iran. She became a maid. I'd go clean rooms with her as a kid. My dad was a manager of like 1,000 people in Iran, and then couldn't get a job in the US. So he worked as a taxi driver. And ironically, and I remember going on cab rides with my dad in Washington, D.C., And ironically, when I did Uber, we kind of laughed about the fact that, I actually grew up in a cab and then we disrupted the whole, taxi industry. But those opportunities for immigrants to come to America with nothing and educate themselves and seek opportunity and then have impact on the country and also the world is something that makes America incredibly unique. Many years ago, my first time I came to Romania was like 2010, and there was an 18-year-old app developer that had created the most advanced 3D graphics engine at the time, and we wanted to build a jet fighting game, which, if you remember, there was no like live gaming over 3G back then. So we had to invent that, and then Apple adopted that standard. But it was this kid in Romania that I found that had invented it. And so I flew here to Bucharest, and we acquired it. He joined the team. We flew him to Argentina, where our lab was, with 100 engineers. And that became the #1 game in the world. And I wrote an essay in Romania at dawn about how that Silicon Valley is not a physical place anymore, that it's an idea, and that it's gone viral. And that's what we see here in this room at this conference that you've been leading. And so Silicon Valley is now an ethos and a philosophy that inspires entrepreneurship all over the world.
Amazing. I'd love for you to share a little bit with the audience some insights into the several companies that you've been involved with and started, and what companies were those, and what did you learn from those experiences in building the companies?
I think #1 is probably Uber is probably the one company that I could kind of speak on from a case study perspective of getting involved when it was extremely small. I was participating in the seed round through a fund called Lowercase, and the valuation was like $4 million. They had just launched some black cars in San Francisco, so I became aware of the company very quickly. And that's one of the great things about being in Silicon Valley is what I always say is the 3 months you have before the rest of the world knows about something is extremely valuable. Just that little bit of time in advance of it spreading. And so I did what you did to me to Travis. So he wouldn't talk to me. And so I bombarded him with friends that he knew, from like Sheryl Sandberg, Drew Houston, Julius Janiszewski was head of the FCC that he knew, I knew. And so he kept hearing it, and he finally said this publicly. He was like, I met with Shervin first when their next round happened because I had no choice. Like I'd been surrounded. And we hit it off. And I was a rookie VC. It was my first 90 days as a venture capitalist in 2011. Uber at that time was like a couple thousand cars, 1.8 million in revenue, very small. They had raised $10 million 6 months before from another VC. And so I sat with him for 2 hours and we really hit it off. And then probably about 4 weeks later, he called me and he said, hey, homie, he would call me homie, we're still best friends to this day. We developed a really strong bond by working so closely together. And he said, hey, I really want to do this with you. You're my favorite, but I have to go with this other firm. And on the inside, my heart sank because I was like, I know this company is going to change the world. But as an entrepreneur, I understood why. I'm a rookie VC, and he needs a firm that has stature and a VC that has stature and so on that could help the company. Just by people hearing, like this fund invested in it. It was Andreessen Horowitz had won the deal at like $320 million valuation. And so what I said to him was like, listen, congratulations, I understand. But if anything happens in the diligence, just know that I'm 100,000% behind you, and you have a backup plan. So negotiate with strength, which was a smart thing to say because if there was a situation where he would be shy about negotiating, me saying that would give him the courage to fight, for what he wants. And that's exactly what happened. So one of the partners at Andreessen took him to dinner and tried to renegotiate the $320 million valuation down to like 220. And so I was in Africa giving a keynote like this at President Obama's Entrepreneurship Summit. And I get a call on my phone, unknown number, which I usually never answer. I answered it. And it was him. He was like, hey, homie, what you said to me 2 weeks ago, is that still true? And I was like, absolutely, yeah. He's like, can you get on a plane to Dublin tomorrow? I was like, yes. And that led to my second mantra, which is always get on the plane. The reason I'm here and got on the plane is because of the same mantra. And in these days of Zoom and video calls and everything else, nothing can replace the human connection of like breaking bread, having a glass of wine, walking the streets of Dublin like we did, having a pint, and him sharing with me what his true vision was, which was, I don't want to be a black car company, I'm not a taxi company, which all my competitors had basically built their models based on taxi and black car companies, which was a mistake. And he said, what I want to do is I want to replace car ownership, right? And he also, I knew, believed in automation and self-driving in the future, so I knew what the vision was immediately. And so I ran to the hotel, I wrote the term sheet at $290 million, and went up to his room, and we signed it on his door, and we have a picture, a selfie of getting it done. That one deal was a 400x investment of like $26.5 million.
That's an amazing story, which leads me to my next question. What gave you the confidence that Travis was going to build a great company? And also, how do you assess what makes a great founder? And also, do you think there are founders that surprised you and you wouldn't have thought initially that they would build huge companies but ended up doing so?
No. It's never a surprise.
Okay.
Yeah. When I see talent, I even if they're like super young and unproven, I know. And I think part of why I know is I was very lucky. When I was a kid, I got tested. I went from like not knowing English to gifted and talented to then guinea pigs in this math, science, communications magnet school. And they picked 100 kids out of like whatever, 100,000, 120,000 students. And they bused us to the school that was 80% African American. And we were a bunch of nerds, right? I was a big nerd. So I was at 12, I was already 175 pounds, I played football. So I would protect, anyone from bullying, all the smaller nerds. And then I became really good at spotting intelligence, like high forms of intelligence. And so even my first startup that I started at Berkeley, I hired a 15-year-old as my second engineer. His name is Anthony Castellana. I knew he was brilliant. He ended up, a few years later, starting Squarespace, and I gave him the server to start Squarespace. We're now like best friends. He's 40. It tells you how old I am. And he's a billionaire. But like in that same company, I hired Zeki Mukhtarzada and the Mukhtarzada brothers. They started webs.com. I housed them when they started Truebill, which had just sold for $1.4 billion to Rocket Money. The founder of Quizlet was 16. The founders of Gmail, I hired them out of Sweden. The creators of Gmail. And it was because the filter is there. And the form of intelligence, and I'll soon talk about superintelligence, is work for super intelligent people. The form of intelligence that I'm talking about, like Travis can do math in his head. And I saw him and one of my mentors, Yuri Milner, at an Oscar thing, and they had a game where Yuri's a physicist and one of the smartest people on the planet, and he would give challenges to Travis. And then Travis would like walk around, he famously walks around, like in his head doing these calculations that are extremely complex math. And people don't realize like these types of founders succeed at that scale because their brains are clocking at a much faster pace. And for any normal humans like myself, it makes a lot of sense to align yourselves with highly intelligent people. The ideal is, really resilient, never gives up, highly intelligent, and committed to a vision that actually makes a lot of sense. And what I tell people is because everyone, a lot of people want to be a VC or an investor or an entrepreneur, and my thing is go seek out those highly intelligent people. And if you're one of them, start a company. If you're not one of them, work for them.
Yeah.
People who work for Steve Jobs, people who are working for Jensen and NVIDIA, people who joined NVIDIA 5 years ago are on average worth over $10 million. 5 years ago. The company's been around since the 90s, right? Imagine the people who joined Jensen in 1998. So there's different forms of investing. You invest your human capital and your time into a company and a startup, or you invest your capital, or you invest your time.
Yeah.
So.
You've been truly amazing at building all these relationships with founders and investors. What would you say are some networking skills that are most effective, and how can they be applied in other ecosystems, not only in Silicon Valley?
I mean, there's foundational periods in your career that you should be putting yourself out there as much as possible. When I was kind of coming up, I just turned 50. I became what I call a YG when I was 48, young grandpa. So my son, who's 27, had a little girl, and I got to tell you, it's the greatest thing in life. It's 10,000. It's 10 times bigger and more powerful than having a kid. So it's been a transformative thing for me. But when I had more time, I put myself out there. I went to every conference. I went to every university research program. I contacted so many people. And just as a quantitative analysis of what I'm talking about, my first 18 months as a VC, we did an analysis of okay, I've distributed over $3 billion in profits, 88% IRR. How did I get there? My first 18 months, I did 10,000 meetings.
Wow.
That's an average of 9, 10 meetings a day, 7 days a week, right? And so, the idea that you can just sit there at home and read Reddit and read articles and tech meme and, succeed is a fallacy. The human connection is still going to be there. One of my more popular tweets recently was Peter Thiel talked about how the value of engineers and technical minds, their value is in mathematicians, their value is going to go down because of AI and superintelligence. But the value of people who have verbal communication skills, who can express things, their value is going to go up now. And then I added on top of that human emotional intelligence is going to become more valuable than just pure IQ, right? And so you're going to have this confluence and synthesis between artificial intelligence, AGI, and superintelligence, quantum computing, and then you're going to have these leaders who are human, who are extremely good at networking, at connecting. And one of the best compliments I ever got was from Elon, was around you said you're a genius at connecting the right people to the right idea. And that means a lot to me, because I think the ability to spot signal, but also spot talent, and then know how to route that talent to the right idea, it can be a superpower.
Speaking of ideas and building companies, if you were to start a new company today as an engineer, what type of company would it be? And would you choose to build it in Europe, in the US, or some other part of the world?
So I think venture capital in the traditional sense is dead. And people are chasing returns in venture capital that are very difficult to get and to be good at. The number of people that are good at it is like 10. That's
Only
it.
10.
Like, and you know, you look at a fund like Sequoia, that's a 10x fund. Like consistently a 10x fund. So they're extremely good at it. And then it drops off from there, and everybody else is like, you know, if maybe 1.1, 1.2, 2x, et cetera. But the point of venture capital is to be a 10x. So my answer to your question is, that's part of the reason why I've always been starting companies in parallel with investing, because I think, and now people call it venture studios. I started something called Shervin Foundry. I came up with the idea for Brandless. We incubated it there. I incubated and worked on the Hyperloop idea with Elon in 2013 and started the company. And now, you know, and one of my other mantras, like start industries, not companies. You know, it's much more impactful to start a completely new industry than just a company.
How can someone get an idea of what industry to start?
Well, right now, we're all very lucky to be alive. Like all of us won the jackpot in terms of Homo sapiens. I know people are afraid of the future and what is AI going to do, et cetera, but no, literally, it took billions of years to get to this level of consciousness and intelligence, and we're about to graduate to something that I'll touch on, which I'm writing a book on called Homo Digitalis, which is the dawn of a new human species. And so for all of you, this is an extremely amazing moment to be alive. My key advice to everyone is don't do anything stupid, don't die. You know, if you ski, stop. Don't fly helicopters, single prop planes, etc. You need to stay alive for the next 20 years because longevity is going to be a real thing, and I'll explain exactly what my thesis around that is. But you're going to live not just to 120, you're going to live much longer than that. And so imagine the wisdom of humanity as we all live much longer lives, and then the superpower of superintelligence being able to be used as a incredible tool to advance us from this tiny little planet to where we will ultimately go, which is we need to graduate from Earth and we need to colonize the stars.
So you said you're planning to release a new book. How soon that will be? And can you expand a few more ideas of what you're planning to write about?
Well, writing a book is like, it's kicking my ass. It's the hardest thing to do. But I really enjoy it, and I think it's important in life to like take on new challenges. And so the book is called Homo Digitalis. And basically it's a synthesis of decades of, I've been doing tech for 27 years. It makes me sound so old. And it's a synthesis of everything that I've been watching happen since Berkeley, where I studied fuzzy logic with Dr. Lotfizadeh, and did research and had my first patents. And it's basically the idea that right now AI is advancing faster than any other platform change that I've seen. I've seen every single platform change since NCSA Mosaic, the browser, came out, thanks to Andreessen and Max Levchkin at University of Illinois. And when I saw that at Berkeley, I knew the world had changed, and that I shouldn't do the graduate school and go straight to starting a software company. And AI is moving 1,000 times faster. Every week is a month. Every day is a month. Every week is a year, and every year is like 10 years. It's things are advancing extremely fast, much faster than I think many people assumed. And where we're going is when AGI happens. And it's essentially going to be a moment in time where we're inventing a synthetic consciousness. We're inventing a synthetic intelligence that right now the IQ of like ChatGPT is like maybe 180, and there's humans that have that IQ, so we're equals slightly, and then in 5 years or less, the IQ of AGI will be 10,000. So we've basically invented a super intelligence that is extremely capable that will change everything about humanity and our civilization. And so what I'm saying is like, what we did to Homo neanderthalis as Homo sapiens, what we did to them because we were so much smarter. We were the AI to Homo neanderthalis. And we were a murderous species, so we murdered them. And that's why 2% of human DNA is neanderthalis. And they don't exist anymore. And they were stronger. They were physically stronger than us, but we were able to invent. We were the AI. So there is a possibility that what we did to Neanderthalis, Homo digitalis will do to us, right? And it sounds dark and scary and so on, but it doesn't really have to be. And part of what I'm seeing, and I'll explain where I think this is going to go, is in the labs. I've been doing a lot of stuff in quantum computing. Quantum computing is the power of God. Like it's essentially, there's stuff that I've funded that are gonna get to 1 million qubits by 2028. And we're at 5,000 qubits right now. 1 million qubits will be able to solve problems that it would take us 1 billion years to solve in like hours and days. The merger of quantum computing and AI chipsets is gonna happen, right? And then in the laboratories percolating now, because of the power problem, people are inventing human brain organelles that are inside of a chipset that use 6,000 times less energy than AI. The human brain and our bodies are the result of billions of years of evolution, so it's extremely energy efficient. And so where I'm going with this is that we're actually going to be inventing a merger of human brain cells and computing chipsets into one. And what you're talking about is like we're essentially inventing a new type of DNA.
Yeah.
And that this form of Homo digitalis will actually be able to, breed, replicate, and then what the other part that's key to understand is that we'll be able to download our own consciousness in digital form. And so this mortal coil of this body that unfortunately, like my mother has cancer right now, I'm doing everything I can to save her life. And I hope I can, is using all my knowledge of CRISPR and genetics, and it's the only hope to save her. This body as a product market fit doesn't work anymore. And we will invent new form factors, but our consciousness will be able to download into new form factors. And what I'm saying is those form factors are going to be a mixture of human intelligence and AI, HI and HI merging into one platform.
These sound like super forward-thinking projects. How can folks from this ecosystem get involved into what you're doing?
Don't die.
That's a good one.
Live. If you're not doing anything in AI, I would stop what you're doing and start learning. At a minimum, learn how to use ChatGPT as a tool to augment your own intelligence and your productivity. If you're not doing that, the analogy is like, the car gets invented and someone has I did yesterday, I went hiking here and I did see a horse and a cart. Yeah. Like it looked like 1905. But it would be like stubbornly insisting on using a horse and buggy, like the Amish, and not actually using a car to get around more efficiently.
Got it. Yeah. If you were to give one final advice to a 20-year-old Shervin, what would it be?
Never, ever give up, no matter how hard life can get. It gets better, and it's just going to keep getting better. Like the opportunities that exist in front of us we're living in a time that we're witnessing the greatest entrepreneur in human history, and Elon Musk, and we saw Steve Jobs. Like, wow, like we get to learn from some of the greats. And if you're an entrepreneur and you're 20 years old and you're living in Romania, like try to create unicorns here in Romania. Don't leave here. Like there's huge advantages to building and not trying to compete in other cities. Like there's so much talent here. If I was a 20-year-old Romanian, I would build a unicorn and I would create jobs and I would transform my country, because Romania has so much potential and it needs to continue to advance.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Shervin.
of course.